Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of Catherine and Lorimer's Guide to Life podcast. So what is it? What are we doing today? We're doing New Year, New February? Is that what I called it? I think so. And basically this is another analysis of how I'm getting on with my kind of like my smart objectives for the year. What am I doing? So I set myself some objectives, kind of like a worky thing that you would do at work, as like in my personal life. So, just to see kind of like, it just makes, basically if you do something like this, it just makes sure that you kind of grow and change. Okay, so I'm trying to say less in my podcast, right? So we'll give that another go. I've just listened back to my podcast from last January, which I never do. I never listen to myself back. I did, again, I laughed at a couple of jokes, so I thought, well, that's okay. One thing I did notice though, I was speaking really, really quickly, okay? Which is fine, okay, if your audience is a UK audience. However, for anyone listening to this podcast, you will have seen a social media post go up that, because I thought, so the context of this is, I finally got down to downloading my podcast app. And then I loaded everything onto it. And it's great because the apps are just really easy to use, aren't they? Because usually what I do is I have a swatch. I go on it once a week and I have a look. I go on the laptop and I have a look at everything. I don't really look at the stats too much because I get an email every week saying, you got this many downloads. And as long as it's going in an upward direction, then I'm quite happy with that. I do apologise if I am a little bit hoarse. It's Monday morning. I'm just enjoying my first cup of coffee. It's just after Valentines Day. I'm having to record this one early because I've got a few things planned this week, and I'm not going to have enough time. And there is a reason why my voice is a little bit croaky, but I will go back to that in a minute. So I thought, right, okay, I'll have a look at everything. I've got this app, so I've got all my stuff on my podcast I can see, and I'm hopeful that I can record things and have things, because I think last time, I don't know if anyone noticed, I think I've mentioned it, when I was away on holiday, I realised that for some reason, although I'd recorded it about 3 weeks in advance, I hadn't actually put my December news rant on. So I thought, right, what I'll do is, if I can get these sorted out, then I've got everything linked to my iCloud, and it just means that if that situation happens again, then I can do something to rectify it, which is, I do this stuff automatically. Okay, if something goes wrong, I think, right, okay, well, how can we change it for the future so that doesn't happen? And not everyone does that. So that's just how my brain works. So I've got that sort of sorted out. I'm still saying a bit, aren't I? We'll see how it goes. But one thing that's become really, really clear, as I say, when you see the social media, I've created a little thing already. I tried to schedule it on Instagram, and it wouldn't let me, so I'm just going to have to post it, because I've realised after posting something, I think it was either like 10 or 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, that day I got 164 downloads on my podcast, and I'm like, whoa, that's the time to put stuff on Instagram. So you'll see. Locations, 75 countries and territories, 637 cities. I've just shoved in the total number of podcast downloads. I mean, that will have changed actually by the time this is published anyway, but it doesn't really matter. It's like 3,709. You can see there's a really cool graph where it's going in an upwards trajectory, which is fine. That's what we want. Because I remember when I first started this podcast, I started it. And I met with Chris Evans, and he interviewed me on Virgin Radio. And it was the podcast, a completely different title. And then I kind of stopped it. So I thought, oh, this is too much and a break. And unfortunately, I lost all the listeners, because I was getting a lot of listeners. But do these things happen? Everything's a learning curve. Anyway, it's fine. So, but I said, I'm only getting a few listeners a week. And Chris Evans said, so just to clarify for any of my work colleagues, apparently there's a famous actor called Chris Evans. It's not him. I don't know who he is. I probably should Google him, shouldn't I? It's Chris Evans from Virgin Radio. And he said, yeah, he said, that's fine. He said, that's a good start. And I was like, but it's not enough. And I was like, he's like, no, but you have to kind of start somewhere. And he's right. And actually what I'm learning through this whole process is people are starting to recognize me now. I don't know if it's me being a bit paranoid, but people are kind of glancing at me a little bit. And you kind of think, I think John's noticed it as well a little bit. And it's usually the women, so it's not the blokes, it's the women going, ooh, who's that? Do I know her? You look familiar. And in fact, I think did I tell you this on one of my podcasts? I can't remember. I had somebody at work saying, "Do I know you from somewhere?" And I just went, "Oh, that's all right. I've just got one of those faces." Quickly turn my name badge round. But anyway, I'm digressing. So, and you'll also see top countries and territories. Now, when I'm sitting here in my little office in North Wales and I'm overlooking the garden, and I have to say, the office is now tidy, with the exception of this large box down here. And also I've got my wedding dress. I don't know what to do with it. It's a bit of a kind of I don't want to throw it out because Mum made it, but it's my old wedding dress, so it's sort of sat here and I don't know what to do with it. I'm unsure. I'm wondering if I could make something else with it. So I've got a memory from it, but then without actually having the dress. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think so. But anyway, that's kind of here and that's there. And I've tidied it all. It's all into plastic boxes. Actually, it's all really well organised. I've got loads of space. And also it means that I've been able to put the picture, the oil painting of Pippa, because this office is really, really warm. I've been able to put the oil painting of Pippa that you might have seen on social media up here, and it's dried really, really quickly, which is great. So I'm in a nice organised office. But anyway, when I kind of like when I'm recording these things, I kind of think to myself, yeah, I'm just, recording it from, a few local people in Chester, a few of my mates will listen to it, but actually top countries and territories. 44% of my listeners are in the UK, 25% are in the United States, 10% are in Australia, 7% in Singapore, 5% in Finland. This was just the last top 5 episodes. 4% India, 1% Iceland, and 1% Lithuania. It's a global podcast. And I thought, well, there's 2 things. Okay. Firstly, wow. Blown away. Thank you so much for listening from wherever you are in the world. And here we are. So that's a bit of a celebration. That's thanks to you guys, because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for you guys who are listening, then there wouldn't really be a podcast. There wouldn't be any point in me doing it. But secondly, I thought, right, if I've got people in different countries, then I need to be speaking a little bit slower. So I'll try and do that, okay? So for my podcast, the objectives are try and speak a little bit slower. Don't say quite as much, okay? If we can achieve those things by the end of December, I'll be quite happy. Okay, so actually having a little look back on things that I've done, it was quite good actually listening to my podcast back. So I thought, I'd forgotten about that. And that means I can kind of follow on and kind of give you a catch up on about what's happened. So I'll start with the pub quiz. Didn't go last week. Was it last week? Whenever it was. It wasn't last week, but I didn't go this time. Didn't go in February. John was doing something else. And also I had quite a busy week that week. I kind of overscheduled, should we call it. It was one of those things. I had lots of different things on. And I messaged Jane. I just said, look, I'm really sorry. I'm really tired. I'm just going to not come. And she said that you're doing too much. And I actually fell asleep on the sofa about 9 o'clock at night. And I thought, yeah, she might have a point. Actually, I probably am doing too much. So I'm aiming to go for the next one in March. There's only once a month. And also, I'd kind of previously mentioned that Jane had clipped Merlin for me. Well, it wasn't really up to her standards. So she re-clipped him. Got rid of all the lines. No, to be fair, what actually happened was I had to go and pick up a horse rug. I still got to go and pick up a horse rug. I've got a habit of paying for my horse rugs to be washed and then forgetting to pick them up. So I've still got one hanging around there, but that's fine. It's been paid for. And I think because I do that, when I rocked up to pick up my rugs and said, do you do clipper blade sharpening as well with them in my hand? She went, yeah, that's fine. I'll do them now for you. So I was like, right, okay, cool. So Jane had a fresh pair of clipper blades to clip the pony and he looks a lot better. So that was quite good. Right, horse riding wise, how am I getting on? Well, quite excited to tell you, after my over a year of physio, I've been able to canter him. I've cantered him twice now. I've had 2 schooling sessions. So for anybody that's not horsey, schooling session basically means that you ride around in an arena, okay, getting them to do things. So in a circle, say like you would ride them in a 20-metre circle, for example, because that's the size that you usually ride a circle in a dressage test, the lower levels, the dressage test. And you ask them to sort of halt at A and, walk at C. And so what you're doing, you're telling them to do these things at these precise certain moments in time. So it ensures that they start listening to your commands. And that will help you when you're riding out, because if a well-schooled horse, which he isn't at the moment, it's getting there, but because of my injuries, it's not been, he should be a lot further along than he is, but he's only 10, so that's fine. We're heading to the best years. And to be fair, he is absolutely awesome. He really is. Had an amazing hack on him on Saturday. We went out on our own. A lot of horses are a nightmare on their own. I had a big warm blood. I couldn't actually ride out. Called Red. I couldn't ride him out on his own. He was horrendous. He used to spook all the time. This pony was great. He just strolled out quite happily. We had a lovely, relaxing ride. Didn't get tense or wound up or anything. He was absolutely brilliant. We have to cross over main roads and stuff, and there's part of the hack that we have to ride up to a pedestrian crossing and press the button so we can cross over the main road, because you can't really see very well. There's a corner on it. And he was, he just does that. It was great. He's an absolutely fantastic little pony. So he's coming along really, really well. Jane's done a canter session with him as well. Because I think I mentioned my partner was going away on his weekend away. So I said to Jane, right, you have him that weekend and I'll concentrate on writing. That was a mistake, okay? Didn't work. I didn't do anything on the Sunday. I did. I ended up watching episodes of Bridgerton. But that was a learning curve for myself. And I was really moping about missing John, because I hadn't seen him it was getting on, it would have been a week. And I thought, and I was really mopey. And apparently he was a bit mopey as well, probably because that was coming across from me. But I didn't want that. I don't want to be that person who gets really mopey if somebody's, if you don't see somebody. So I said for next time you go away, I'm going to change what I'm doing. I had an art, and this was part of the problem as well. I think I wake up at 6:30 in the morning on the Saturday because I had to walk the dog, get some breakfast, drop Pippa off at my parents' house, go to my art thing for 10 o'clock. And it's about half an hour to my parents' house from where I live. And then it was about, sort of 40 minutes away from my parents' house as to where this is. So, and then he hadn't got up by the time I went into the art class, and I was kind of a little bit, sort of like worried about it. And he's like, and he was like, but you were overreacting completely. And then we had a conversation sort of last weekend, and we could sit down and talk about everything. And I was like, I was up at 6:30. Oh, that's right. So I was checking my alarm to see what time the phone alarm goes off. And I said, right, it's set for 6:30. And I was like, why is it set for 6:30 on a weekend? Then I went, oh, that's right. Because and then he said, well, no wonder if you've been up for like 5 hours and it hadn't heard from me. He said, no wonder you were worried. So there's like a logical explanation for everything, but also equally, it's important to talk about things, because quite often in relationships we can let things fester, can't we? But I didn't do that, and I said, right, so we need to talk about this, because this is how I felt and this is what was going through my mind, because I overthink. But what I've learned is that there's overthinking in different ways. So overthinking, can be like sort of imagining the worst possible scenario, which is also catastrophizing, which maybe women do. I don't know, but I certainly do that. But overthinking in blokes is thinking every option through, but then never actually doing anything because you don't know what to do, which is a completely different form of overthinking. But they overthink the practical things and the smaller things, whereas women clearly, or in my case anyway, overthink the bigger things. So that was like I was like, whoa, men and women's brains are completely different. We're just programmed and wired completely differently, which I hadn't actually maybe realised that before. So that was a big learning here, but I'm learning this because we have some amazing conversations. And then we were talking about passive aggressive behaviour as well. And he was talking about that with his driving. And I was like, oh, what's passive aggressive behaviour? And basically it's taking out your frustrations because you don't like confrontation. So you don't talk about these things. And then you take out your frustrations in a different way. And I suppose everything's kind of contained. Yeah, here we are. I've Googled it because Google's our friend. It knows everything. Yeah, but it's an indirect expression of hostility, anger, or resentment, where individuals mask negative emotions um, behind seemingly harmless, compliant, or innocent actions instead of addressing the issues directly. And that can come out through sarcasm, backhanded compliments, procrastination, um, inefficiency, silent treatment, can sabotage relationships. Well, that's possibly me as well. And he's great because there's always, he understands behavior as well. And clearly he's like thought about this and gone, this is what I do, the sabotaging relationship things. And I can do that. That is a thing. So because I don't like confrontation either, then I was thinking, because I was kind of thinking, is that what I was doing? And it's great. It's almost as if he can kind of read my mind and say, yeah, that is what you were doing. That's what you do. So I thought, right, okay. And it was great the way he sort of dropped that in there. But do you know what? He's just amazing because he just accepts these things and then he just accepts them and then we talk about them and it's great. It's really, really good. And I think that's a sign of a really, really healthy relationship. Okay, so what else is going on in my world? So yeah, going back to the whole kind of like, who are my listeners? And so it's really important to know who your listeners are. Because Jane sent me this this link. What did she send me? She sent me. Hang on, let me just grab my phone, and I'll have a quick look at WhatsApp because she messaged me this link and said, "Oh, this is happening. You should do a podcast on it." Here we are. So let me just find Jane. Jane, what was the link on? I'm about to find it now. Will I? Here we are. It's kind of like they're defending a green space. Because they're looking to build some kind of pipeline to pump CO2 from factories in Derbyshire, okay, into the sea, because apparently the sea can take it. I don't quite understand it all, but obviously, understandably, people aren't very happy about this at all. But I thought to myself, well, if people in my podcasts, okay, listen to them from basically 50%, over 50% listen from the rest of the world, they're probably not going to be interested in some kind of pipeline that comes in a local area. And that's why it is important to understand who your audience is. And so whenever you're doing podcasts, it's kind of, it's say, you know who your audience is, you know who you're speaking to. So that way, you can kind of select what topics might be interesting to them. So what else have I done? So I've had things to look forward to. There was a long pause there, wasn't there? You might have thought that it's like been cut off and deleted. It was just me, my brain working. It's because it's not even 9 o'clock. It's like 7:30 or something ridiculous. Anyway, so what have I been doing? So I was doing some exercises. I've been doing that. I did my 1K run. It wasn't quite 1K. It was 0.6 miles. I don't know what that equates to. It's around about 1K because I forgot to set my Garmin to kilometres. I left it in miles. So I've done that. I did that once, okay? Was aiming to do one a week. And then unfortunately, when I went out for Burns night, maybe had a little bit too much wine. I managed to twist my ankle on the way home. So I haven't done another one since. I'm letting it all recover. But I have done my 1K run. I didn't have any issues. So I thought, right, okay, let's be sensible about this. We'll do another 1K. So I'll aim to do another 1K run this week instead. What else have I done? Swimming. Okay, I've joined the swimming. I'm doing that. And I've been doing swimming 3 times a week, which is great because there's a late night session after work that I can do. And I just do like half an hour. So it's fine. It's been working out really, really well. And what I'm noticing by doing the swimming is I'm less achy. Everything aches less. My ankle's working properly. It's a bit stiff and swollen, but I did do quite a lot of stuff on Saturday. But it's been great. So I highly recommend swimming. Low impact, really quite good for you. I'm toning my tummy muscles up by swimming, which is great. And it's going to be a progress, okay? These things do not happen overnight. So it's probably going to take about a year of swimming to kind of get my stomach muscles so they're really, really kind of strength and strong, because that's kind of the weak area that I've got apparently. And then because my stomach muscles aren't as strong, it means I'm putting strain on my back. Because we're thinking, I'm getting, 52, I want to be like Jane when I'm 70. I think I said that, didn't I? I know my friend said people should study Jane. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing my swimming. That's all. I'm really enjoying that. What am I doing with my art? Okay, art's quite exciting. I did my demonstration. It was a watercolor, but we had a watercolor artist come in and he demonstrated. Then I had to go. Now, whenever people kind of like say about painting and stuff, people seem to think they sort of send you towards watercolor because they think, that's a good one for beginners. Poppycock. That's completely incorrect. Painting with watercolors is really hard. And there are two reasons for that. One, well, there's only really one reason, to be fair. If it goes wrong, that's it. You can't do anything with it, which for a beginner artist would be really, really frustrating. For someone who's been painting for a bit, it was really funny, actually, because the guy's like, oh, well, that's okay. You can change that and do that. And, we can add some. And I said, chill. I said, it's all right. I said, at the end of the day, it's only a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter if it goes wrong. It's experimental. You're not trying to create, some kind of, I'm trying to think of some watercolor artist. I can't, it's too early in the morning. But it's not as if you're trying to achieve, actually, I'm going to pause. I'm going to find one. Turner. Okay. Was a watercolor artist. So it's not as if you're trying to create a Turner every time you paint something. You just want it to look half decent, but when you're learning, things aren't going to be that great. So that was quite good. But I really enjoyed the kind of demonstration. And there'll be another one coming up. I'm not sure. I might be busy on the day that is. Actually, I'm not sure. I'll have to try and get some more information. But these guys are great because actually, what they do as well is the Art Society. They send out emails, and you get like pictures every week of like certain paintings that they're having a look at. And for me at the moment, I'm learning about shadowing, shading, and shadows and stuff, and how to paint that. Because I'm not great with that bit. That's something that's kind of like, and that's how you develop. There's always like bits of your artwork that you can go, right, okay, we're going to do that next. And I found out about going in the exhibitions. It's quite funny actually, because one woman was like, "Have you been painting for years?" Then I was like, "No, I've just started in June." But if you feel your work's good enough, then stick it in an exhibition. It doesn't matter who sees it. At the end of the day, they're probably not going to know who you are anyway, are they? But hey, I think maybe it's because, I blurt out on a podcast, which there's, basically the entire world can hear. So if I'm doing that once a week, then sticking something up in an art gallery where a few people locally might come and see it isn't an issue for me. But I think that's great. That's a really good place to be. And we worry too much, don't we, about what people might think of us. You know what? I don't do that anymore. I don't worry about what people might think. I don't care. Maybe that's what the people were saying because I always wear my glasses, but I've run out of contact lenses and I've had issues with my contact lenses. And there's one always splits. Do you always find that? And like I said to John, I said, we're in a situation where we went out with a couple of friends. We went to see a band together. And I said to John, my contact lens is split. He's like, have you got a spare? And I'm like, no. What? It's like, well, I always used to carry a spare. Obviously he did. He's the most organised person ever. Okay, right? He never runs out of anything because there's always a spare in the cupboard. And I'm not like that at all. I've run out. I've run out of that. I'll get around to getting some more at some point in time. But anyway, so I said, I'm going to have to go and take it out. So I had to, and this reminded me of when I was a teenager. This had happened as well. And so I spent the evening with just one contact lens in. It worked. I survived it. So it doesn't really matter. But I think that's why I'm wearing my glasses now, because I can't be bothered with them unless it's a really, really important kind of thing. Then I'm just wearing my glasses. Okay, so what else has happened? Yeah, so I've done my watercolor. I've got another thing planned for next week, which you'll hear about in March. It sounds quite exciting, and we require aprons, so it sounds as if it's going to be quite messy, which is great. It's like, honestly, it's like doing art is like being a child again. Yeah, so just going back to the watercolor thing though. So if you are thinking of having a painting, don't start with watercolors. Start with acrylics. Because the simple thing is you can paint over acrylics quite easily. So if it doesn't look good, you just leave it till it's dried and then repaint it over. You can't do that with watercolor. So watercolour is not for beginners, acrylics are. That's a big learning curve, another big learning curve for this week. Painting exhibitions. So I've now, that's it. So I'm aiming for a painting exhibition. I've got until July. I have to think about framing it. I've nearly finished a painting. I had framed it. It didn't look right in the frame that I've put it in, and then I realised it isn't quite central. The top bit is too close to the top, and the bottom bit there's too big a space. So I've had to take it out this morning, and I'm going to have to like add in some shading. Actually, I'll do some shading at the bottom so that when it's in its frame, it'll look balanced. And it's like little things like that. And I'm thinking, right, okay, what colour does the card need to be? So I'm thinking about those. But we had a look around an art gallery. It's fairly local. I was quite excited actually, because where my partner lives, he lives maybe about 40 minutes, no, half an hour away from me. And where kind of he lives, it's there's loads of kind of like little arty crafty places that you can go to, and they do like loads of workshops and stuff. And it's great. And there's like this little art gallery. And like before I went in there, I kind of thought people were like saying, "Oh, I've got my artwork up at such." Yeah, because I was sat next to this guy at this demonstration. It was at a meeting, and he said, "Oh, I've got some. I do." He goes out. I can't remember the name for it, but he goes out and he does artwork and he paints in an open space. There's a specific name for it, and I I can't remember it. It's not coming to mind at the moment. And he said, if you want to come and do it with me, that'd be great. And I said, oh, where do you sell your paintings? He said, I've got like a little section in wherever it is, it's Castle Park in Frodsham. I might be honest with you, Castle Park. It's like an art centre, and he kind of like he's got like a section. And he said, I've just sold a painting, and I was like, I'm thinking, how do you manage to get people to kind of look? So we went there, and actually they put the art in the coffee shop. There's crafting stuff going on. We went there was guys rehearsing for a band, and there was like, and then John always meets someone that he knows. It's like, and we met somebody and we were chatting to him, and I managed to see the guy that I'd been sat next to. His name's Pete Mills. Go and check his stuff out. He does loads of kind of paintings of still life, and he also does places like Chester and Liverpool and stuff. And it was interesting having a conversation with him, because he said, they said the first few times I went to set up and start painting the street, and I bottled it. And he said I did the second time, the third time I did it okay. So he said, so if you want to go and do that, I'll come with me, and you can come with me anytime. That's fine. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I don't think I'll have an issue with that, because the first time I'm thinking of going and painting outside, and I've got my outdoor stand now, and I've got a little box sorted out as well that I can put some stuff in. Because I was saying to him, so how do you carry everything around with it about being too heavy? Have you got a box or something? He said, I'll just shove it all in the rucksack. I thought, right, okay, no, that's a good idea. And so I'm set up to do that now. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go and paint landscape, and I'm just going to go to a local area and just start painting where there isn't that many people to start off with. And I thought, I'm not going to have that issue. I don't have that lack of confidence anymore. I think I say a lot of it is because I do my podcast, and I go out and I've pushed myself, and I've gone and done all these things. And so that's really helped me in life. And that's why it's important to go out and push yourself out of your comfort zone, so you get to a place where it doesn't matter. And the point I was going to make right at the beginning, when I was talking about my podcast growing, and I was having a conversation with Chris Evans, and now people are starting to kind of like look at me and think that. So if you're in a situation where you kind of didn't tour around, like the X Factor, you go from complete unknown to being really, really famous overnight, and then people go a little bit crazy. Okay, I can really understand why, because you know what? It's a journey, and it's great to be on the journey, and it's the journey that's important. And Chris did say this to me, it's the journey. Journey's really important, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure about this. I've never wanted to be famous. I don't want to be that person. It's not something I ever wanted. And then he said it's the journey to get there. But I understand now it is a process, and I'm enjoying the journey is kind of where I'm at. I am enjoying the journey to getting where I need to be, or I'm going to be. And that's, it's great. And I can really understand now why you need to do the journey. Okay. Because having everybody recognizing you all of the time is, it's funny now. And, but at some point in the future, depending on how far you get, if you're thinking you're kind of an A-list celebrity where you can't really go anywhere without people recognizing you, or you have to be aware, don't you, that people are going to recognize you wherever you go. It kind of just sort of, it's interesting. It's a journey. That's what I'm saying. It's a journey that I'm sharing with you guys, and we're on this journey together. And I just want to say thanks for your support and thanks for listening while I'm on this journey. What else have I been doing? Okay, so painting exhibitions. I've got a few things lined up. There's something else coming up that I'm going to tell you about next month. And so if I talk about it now, then I'll remind myself when I have to listen back to my podcast that I need to tell you guys about it, because hopefully it'll come off. But and it's the first kind of like composition painting that I'm doing on my own, and we've had to listen to a piece of music, okay, and then I've got some ideas from listening to the piece of music and hearing the stories, and I've started it. It's already in form. And I've drawn it all out. I actually drew it out in pencil. Don't tell my art teacher, but I did that. And I've started painting the acrylic section. I'm going to do acrylic, and then I'll paint over with oils afterwards. But I'll take it into work. Into my art class. See, I'm already thinking mindset. Art is work, which is interesting, isn't it? So but I shouldn't. But art is enjoyable. It's not work. It's like, it's a process. But maybe I have to see it like it's work, otherwise you won't sort of do it. I don't know, but that's my thought process anyway. Hours she bangs her elbow on the printer. Hopefully I didn't pick up. So what else have I been doing? Okay. We had a really interesting incident. My neighbour messaged me. My neighbour used to ride horses as well, and she's in the horse equestrian industry. So you got two equestrians living together, sharing the same sort of garden space and drainage section. And she said our drains are blocked. She said it's happened about 6 years ago. Right, we're gonna have to unblock them. I said, well, I'll have a go. She said, I'm on holiday this week. I can't believe it. Well, she was actually at a conference, but I said, I'll have a go. Right, well, it's fine. I cleared all the leaves away from the drain side, tried to lift the cover, and my back an SI joints just went, oh no, that's not happening, lovey. Not anymore. You're too old. I couldn't lift it. So I'm just like, had to sort of, and this was like really difficult because I used to be really, really strong, and I could pretty much do anything. I used to carry like a bag of feed on my shoulders, and like I've got really, so not to be able to lift up the drain cover is quite, it's an indication that you realize your body's aging and you can't do the things that you used to be able to do. And so I said, I'm really sorry. I said, I can't lift it up. I can't lift the drain cover, so I can't do it. Because I've got some drainage rods. So anyway, so she said, right, I'll be back Monday night. So, and I was like, so we were there. She had her torch on. I had my phone torch. 9:00, right? Monday evening, with a pair of us there, flushing turds away down the drains, trying to shift all this toilet paper that got stuck. And what had happened was there's an oak tree that's kind of fairly close by that the council have planted as like their memorial site, and like a cenotaph thing. Is that what you call it? Anyway. So to remember everybody who died in the wars. And what's happened is the roots have come through, and then of course moss grows at the end of the roots, and all the moss is kind of clung together, and that's stopping everything from going down. So we cleared it all out. That was sorted out. And she got onto the water company and she said, right, it's a shared drain. You need to come and sort this out. So that meant they've been out and they've power hosed it down. But I just thought it was really funny, that we were kind of stood there 9:00 at night sharing turd jokes and just getting it done. Whereas you kind of think, well, if that had been a bloke, they'd have probably just left it, wouldn't they, to the next day? But no, we were like, right, we're on a mission. It only took half an hour. And that's one thing that I'm trying to get through to my partner. Because he's like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And I was like, no, actually, do it now. We'll just do it now, because you can do something else tomorrow. So that's a message for you guys, anyone listening. Don't do it tomorrow. Do it now. Have I mentioned my roof's leaking? No, I had my chimney kind of fixed, and when it was done, I thought there's a little bit of water coming through, but I thought, no, it's my imagination. But no, actually, there is quite a bit of water coming through. So I don't know if it's something that's happened, because coincidentally, just after my chimney was done, the guys had their chimney done next door, and I'm not sure if they've done something when they've done that chimney that's affected my chimney. But anyway, the roof guy's got to go up and have a look tomorrow and see what's happening, because I've kind of got leaking water stains over 2 walls now, which I'm going to have to fix. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. I've been Googling how do I get rid of water stains. So that's something that I'll, and they're proper water stains as well. They've got like marks and stuff, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll worry about that when I get there. And the thing that I was going to do didn't come off, unfortunately, but I've got a plan to maybe kind of work on that. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to tell anyone about that in case it doesn't come off, because there's some other thing, because life changes, doesn't it? From where I was when I recorded my podcast in January and was sharing that with you guys that I might be doing something, we'll aim to do it by Christmas. Well, my entire world has completely changed after that. And we're now planning to do something else, which I'm not going to talk about. And I will talk about it at some other point in time, but not now's not the right time. Okay, so I did say I was going to offload the thing that is too much. I'll share what it is now. Why? No, I won't. Actually, I won't. I have offloaded it, and I'm going to be offloading it in October. I've just said, right, okay, it's too much. I've got too much going on. I can't do it anymore, because I've got some other things. And that is the thing, isn't it? Life changes. Because my life's going to be changing significantly. Then the thing I need to, and we're going to be doing something major, then no, you don't need to buy a hat, Jane. Right? No. So we're going to be doing something major. And I need to, all my focus is going to have to be on that. So everything else is going to have to kind of come down to a minimal kind of thing. And then what else we've had? So I've had things to look forward to. I've managed to get to 40 minutes, haven't I? That's because I'm talking slower. Okay. So we've had 2 things. So I've celebrated my dad's 85th birthday. He didn't really want to go out for a meal, but I got him a cake. I got 85. You might have seen this picture. Did I put a picture on Instagram? I don't think I did, actually. I think I just shoved it on my private page, but got him a little 85 birthday cake. So we celebrated his birthday because he's 85, you know. I got him a jigsaw puzzle. He likes doing jigsaws, but he does jigsaws and he does them on the computer, which annoys Mother because he's upstairs in the office doing jigsaws. So I thought, well, I'll get him a jigsaw that he can do downstairs. Maybe she'll be happy. We're happy with that. She won't, because then she'll be moaning that he's got his jigsaw on the table and it's in the way. And it won't. See, but why do women do that? Why do they moan about that? I don't know. But anyway. And then lastly, oh no, actually no, it's not. I've completely missed out something. Burns night. How did that go? It was on the Saturday, 24th. It was at the Ring o' Bells. So fortunately, Nigel Farage didn't come in that night because he has been in the pub a couple of times. I'm like, what? Farage in a local pub? Not very happy, no. Ring o' Bells in Frodsham. We went to Burns night and it was awesome. Had a great night. I did notice Rob behind the bar did the playlist and he did include James Blunt Bonfire Heart, which was quite okay. I was like to Jan, they're playing, have you heard the music? He's like, no, outside it's James Blunt Bonfire Heart. I was like, thanks, Rob. Thanks for doing that. That's really thoughtful of you. So that was quite interesting. Anyway, Burns night. It was fantastic. We had such a good night. We had the piper there and they piped the haggis. And I don't think I've ever done a proper Burns night like that before. Surprisingly, having been married to a Scotsman for a fair amount of years, was it 18 maybe? Anyway, John wore his kilt. He's got some kind of Armitage link somewhere, like in some kind of distant world, which means that he can wear a kilt if he wants to. Because his family is originally from, I want to say, like, it's not County Durham, but it's kind of up that area. And then, so yeah, it was great. We had a fantastic time. We had a really, really good time. And then Valentine's Day, right? So my secret Valentine's Day. So I didn't know, he booked it in November. And I was like, right, okay. So that's quite exciting. The fact that he was checking for things to do on Valentine's Day in November is really, really nice. And the fact that he kind of booked it, because he did send me a message and said, you need to keep Valentine's Day clear. And I said, oh, that's quite exciting. So I was like, I don't know where I'm going. So I had no clue where I was going. I had to ride the pony early, so I had to be back because we were leaving at 4:15 because we booked some food. So we were headed to Salford, so that was fine. We went to Salford Quay. If you haven't been there, it's lovely, and there's loads of kind of restaurants. We went to the Banana Tree, which has got like loads of kind of Oriental food. It had some like noodles, Banana Tree spicy noodles that I go for. It really, really nice. Yeah, highly recommend it. And then, we went to, so I kind of thought, I think we're going to go and see a kind of like a musician or something. So we walked up. I didn't really know anything in that area. I hadn't been out in that area before. So we walked up and we ended up at the O2, which is right by Old Trafford. I kind of was walking up thinking, well, we're not going to see a football game, are we? Because that's not, I'm kind of thinking to myself, is that what we're going to see? Is there some kind of sporting event that's, on in Old Trafford? But no. Old Trafford Park, isn't it? Old Trafford, yeah. So I was quite excited because I saw two tour coaches. So the two tour coaches, if you see them, it's a big star, big band, or big whoever it is. So I was like, excellent, I'm going to go and see a really decent band. So we're kind of queuing up, and then I saw flashed across the lorry Kaiser Chiefs, and I was like, yes, Kaiser Chiefs, amazing, one of my favourite bands, love them. And John had never seen them live before. So that was great experience for him. And they were do you know what? It's really funny. He was laughing at me. So I was like, it was the album Employment, but I was like, I can't remember album names. And I was just like, anyway, but it was great. And I was like, I couldn't remember that was their first album, but it was. And it was amazing. Absolutely fantastic experience. And John I've never seen him bounce up and down before. It was like Zebedee bouncing up and down to this kind of rock band because, essentially they are, and there were some real rocky tracks, and it was fantastic experience. It was absolutely brilliant. We really enjoyed it. And do you know what? They're great, and just they're such a great band. If you have not seen the Kaiser Chiefs live, then you need to go and see them. And it's like, he's talking about the singer, and I was like, yeah, no, I've met him. So if you check my Instagram feed, there's a picture of me and Ricky Wilson. I said, that's like, he said, he's really good. He's like on the radio. And I was like, yeah, no, he works at Virgin Radio. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. And I met him at the Black Dog charity do that I went to. And so I think it's not on my podcast Instagram feed, but it is on my private one. So I have met him, which is quite funny. But he is, because he's great, but it was great. It was a fantastic gig. It was great. But not only that, it's like this surprise element, because we've done this a couple of times now. John didn't know where he was going for his birthday. I didn't know where I was going for a meal out for our year anniversary. It's the surprise element. It's nice for the person who is having the surprise, but it's equally as nice for the person who's doing the surprise to see the reaction of the other person. And he enjoyed this as much as I did, because it was a surprise. I hadn't got a clue. I didn't know what we were doing. I thought we were going to go and play crazy golf somewhere, for all I knew. So it was awesome. It was a fantastic day. It really was a lovely Valentine's Day. I'm not going to tell you what he got me as a present, but because it actually made me cry, but it was lovely. But it wasn't it wasn't flowers. It was just something much more meaningful. Okay. Something that I've popped up on my wall. And it's the small things that are important, and the gifts that require a lot more thought into them than, maybe just flowers or chocolates or something. This gift had required a lot of thought, and he'd clearly, it'd been ordered in advance. And it's lovely. It's a lovely gift. I said, don't expect too much from me. I've got you something small. And I will share what I got him, because it's actually quite a good idea. It might be something that you guys can do next year. I got him like a little Valentine's Day. It's a heart-shaped chalkboard, with a little easel. And what I did was, throughout the day, I changed the messages that I put on it. And he's like, I love this. He said, every time I go and check it, it's got a different message on it. And, it's just like small things like that. That's what's really important. Anyway, by talking a lot slower, hopefully saying a lot less, I've actually managed to get to 45 minutes. So I actually want to thank you guys. Okay, love my UK listeners, but love my worldwide listeners. And thanks to you guys and me having to now talk a little bit slower and be more appreciative of the fact that people who maybe don't have English as their first language are listening to the podcast. Thanks very much. You're awesome and it means an awful lot. Anyway, have a great week and I'll catch you next time.